And there we are. All right. I think I got both going at the same time. So something new. Well, today, thanks for joining. We're getting to the end of our 3 weeks. And today is, like all of them, are very important. The art of negotiations. The art of negotiations is so important to our industry. I think the number one trait and skill that agents need in real estate is, of course, communication skills and abilities. And there's an art form to communicate, but negotiations, there's so many different levels and personalities and angles with negotiations. And not to talk about the hard part about negotiations with agents today. Not that I'm going to talk about the timeline of 30 years in real estate, but years ago we used to be able to sit as a buyer's agent, sit from the seller's agent in front of the buyer. Sometimes it'd get everybody together, sometimes, or in the same office, one in one room, one in the other room. I mean, there was times where I remember vividly, I would always have to plan what I was wearing during the summertime, because I would go to, I remember once I was presenting an offer, we used to go to the seller's house, and it happened to be a very, 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 very hot summer day. Didn't prepare for it, and went to the seller's house to negotiate with the other agent of my buyer's offer. For some reason, the seller, instead of, sometimes they put you in the kitchen or put you in another room, the seller asked me to go back outside. And I thought it was going to be a few minutes. I'm standing outside. I didn't want to sit in my car that was down the driveway and walk all the way up. So sat outside, had my suit on, and just started sweating and coming back in. But the point of that story was just a funny story, is that nowadays we do so much stuff, we're not in front of the sellers. So the art of negotiations is sometimes a little even harder to pinpoint, because you're trying to get through from the agent to what the seller is doing, or you're getting to do the agent to what the buyer is doing when you're on either side. And then even worse, we're negotiating by text or emails and not actual verbal discussing things and back and forth in the time. So I'm going to go over some ideas and thought processes. But first, I want to start with just types of personalities that you got to be aware of. And I know, and when I deal with this every day with helping our agents try to negotiate ideas and paint pictures of where the other party is, kind of like playing poker, so to say. What do they have in their hand? And these are some of the things that are very important that I think about every day. I really do. This is not something that, I'm just pulling out of my notes again. This is something I actively use on a daily basis, these ideas and these thought processes in negotiating and helping with agents. So that's why I say it's very important information. So there's 7 types of people, or let's say 7 types of negotiators that I feel that are out there, that people, buyers, sellers, agents that are out there. And number 1, we'll start, just go down the list. There's the people pleaser, the people that just want to please everybody. They don't want to be hated. So example is that I've been through this many times, is that agents, sometimes they're the people pleaser. So they don't want to give the bad news to they just want to let anybody win, so to say. So when they have a buyer and they're a people pleaser, sometimes they get taken advantage a little bit. So there's sometimes a bit, when you're a people pleaser and you're a complete people pleaser, that's all, that's your number one conscious and unconscious goal, is just to make everybody happy in a negotiation. Then you could, as an agent, you could be a little bit of a risk to your client, because you're just like giving in. I know that feels a lot. So I'm picturing this as pretend like we're not in a extreme market of like an extreme seller's market. Imagine this is a normal market. Imagine this is where people actually have choices and the sellers don't really know if the buyer really is 100% motivated to buy their house because there's other houses available and vice versa. So in a people pleaser, that's an example of someone that just wants to keep everybody happy and whatever they give. So there's no negotiations. It's kind of, here's my offer, a counter offer. Let's take it. Let's keep them happy. And sometimes the buyers and sellers are like that too. Very rarely, because they really want the best deal sometimes, but sometimes the buyer's like, okay, whatever. Like right now, I mean, really, buyers are very big people pleasers right now because they want to please the seller because they really want that house. I'm going to go into more detail in a little bit about that mentality of not being able to walk away from something and how it affects the negotiations. Number two is the king of the hill. I love these people. I love the king of the hill people, the people that want to win. They want to feel like they win all the time. Oh boy, this is agents. There's a lot of agents. And it's hard to get through those agents. You know, when you have a king of the hill agent that wants to win no matter what, before you even negotiate anything, before you even give an offer, they just want to win. But you don't always know if that is the real, are the sellers like that too. So I'm kind of sticking like we're on the buyer side. So sellers, are they a king of the hill type? They have to win. Usually when the agents that a king of the hill personality and quarterback in the whole negotiations and telling their sellers will say what they should do and shouldn't do, it's getting through them to make sure they win. Like I took one class once years ago, and they recommended you always I mean, this is years and years and years ago, different markets. But when you present an offer, always put in the offer something that you don't absolutely care about at all. So there's always something to take away. Like example, painting the house, or painting not the whole house, but maybe painting a porch, or painting something that's so simple that, and also something that it might not even be needed. Like if they have a porch, it looks pretty good. They're like, okay, paint the porch, paint it. Just I want this, and I want you to paint the porch. When that seller comes back, goes, I'm not painting the porch. The porch is fine. Usually when it's fine, again, not something that's okay or good, they know, why do I have to repaint it? And it makes them feel like they got something, they won. So that's an example of a class I took, and it always stuck with me in negotiations, is offering something. That's a strategy. But with the king of the hill type personalities, which I honestly love, is there's ways to deal with that. And again, you have to, every situation is different. You got to figure out a way how they feel like they win, that they're getting the deal, that they're in control of this transaction. And when you have two king of the hill people, that's the hard time. When you have a buyer that wants to be king of the hill and wants to win and wants to get everything that they want, and a seller that wants to give everything that they want, that's when sometimes it's hard to negotiate something like that. Still is possible. It's always possible, but just situations like that. So king of the hill, which I love that, because I love to feel a way to make them feel like they're winning, but brought it down to a fair deal, or even more on the buyer side of things. So giving things, and that's where I brought up that example of asking someone, a seller, to paint something just so they could feel like they win on that. Next is earnest and honest people. Some people, like, this is kind of like the Mr. Rogers type people that you just know right away. They're just so honest. They tell you their whole life stories. Like, this is what they want. This is what they could afford. And they need, you're going into, they're telling you exactly, this is a price I want for the house, or can't get the house because I got to do this and I do that. And yeah, maybe I could afford a little bit more, but I can't because I got to pay for this. And they just they're just so honest. It's like, this is the best I can. So sometimes those people are great in the aspect of that they are totally honest about it. And there's sometimes what's good about that is that there's no negotiations as much. It's like, this is the best I can, and I'm being honest about it. This is it. This is the best we can do to that. So the earnest and honest people are sometimes good to deal with, but as an agent, sometimes they're frustrating because they only want, they say they want to, they feel like they're giving it away because they're just trying to be honest about it, and they don't care about, like, this is the best I want to go, and this is the best I'm going to give them, and I hope they're just as honest, and this is good for them, and there's no real negotiation on getting down the price or terms or whatever. But again, it could work out very well. Linear and logical people. The linear and logical people. These are the people that I have the hardest to, because I'm more of an emotional person. I'm more of who, the feel of it, like, where's your mind, like, where's your feelings? Is a buyer emotionally connected with the house more than the seller? Like, when I have a seller, is this buyer emotionally connected? Is the seller emotionally connected or disconnected from the property? That affects the negotiation, how easy and who gives more. But a linear person that kind of feel like they use their logic, they show their emotion through their logic, kind of like Mr. Spock, if you know it's Mr. Spock. They show they're just more of a numbers. They are process driven, like, this is step one. Like, example, to a linear logical person, which happens a lot sometimes. And I'll give you a little example of if I was a seller and I have a linear logical buyer coming in, and they go way low. They're just low, because that linear logical buyer knows that normal process is you offer something and then you get a counter offer. You always start lower. They always, sometimes linear logical people, they always start, well, this is a negotiation, so let's start low. Obviously, some of those people are hard to explain now in a seller's market. No, we can't do this normal process. You're going to have to go higher. You can't, there's not a process. So basically, when I work on the seller side things, usually linear logical buyers that come in and want that process, they go, okay, let's offer lower price. And then you see that low price, knowing, when especially the buyer's agent go, well, I'm sure you're going to counter this. Or maybe, my buyer's, waiting for a counter. And usually I tell our sellers, tell them no counter, just denying the deal. Like, whoa, wait, you're denying the deal? I'm like, yeah, we're denying the deal. We're keeping the house on the market. Good luck. Have a good day. See ya. Wish you the best. Those people, they're waiting for a counter. And that's a good negotiations with a linear logical people, in my opinion and my experience, because then they start trying to process, like, okay, what's the dollar amount? What's the process? I got to get back to the process. And sometimes they go higher than they would normally go in that counter offer. So years and years of experience, but also in the art of negotiations is it's all different from what side of the negotiation, what type of personality and person you have on the seller side. So again, it's kind of like a recipe for negotiations. You might have one person on one side, but it's totally different if you have totally different personality on the other side, and two linear people, earnest and honest person and a linear person, someone that's a king of the hill and someone that's a people pleaser. Again, you have to, as an agent, to be very professional and an expert at negotiations, is knowing all parties as much as you possibly can in a transaction, especially with agents. Almost daily, I get a call from an agent or, sharing text, but usually get on a call when it comes to negotiation. First thing I ask, who's the other agent? Because I, being a broker in thousands and thousands of homes every year and tens of thousands over 30 years, have experience with other agents. So I see their style. I could see who is a king of the hill. It's definitely the extremes. Who's a people pleaser? I kind of have that from past. So I want to know who's the other side before even starting to decide where we should go down the road of which way to negotiate, if that makes sense. So next one is emotional ping pong. The totally emotional people, and we get several of these every year. As people, I have agents, like, they're happy one day, they're so happy, and the next day they're like not happy. One day they're excited about buying the house, and the next day, like, oh, I'm not excited anymore, I'm not that excited about it. Then one day, just in less than a day, they could go like, I'm so happy, I'm gonna pay 10,000 over asking, and then next morning they're like, no, I want 10,000 under asking or list price. They're just go over and over and excited. And sometimes the agents are like that. I see a lot of ping pong emotional agents, because one day I see it in copies of texts and emails from our agents or their agents. Like, all of a sudden one day it's beautiful, like, hey, great, yay. And the next day, boom, upset. And what's going on? You're taking advantage of someone. So the ping pong personalities, the one thing that is most important about them is just knowing that you know that. So you don't take it personal. You could navigate those, I was about to say outbursts, not really outbursts, but changes of emotion, because they just go back and forth. It's something happening. I say this a lot throughout a year. Tell agents, you never know what's going on in someone else's life. You don't know what's going on in their head. So they can switch on you at any time, some people. But again, the number one thing is that that that's the personality. That you see it, you're aware of it. You could navigate it. You could adjust your conversation and communication with them. And also, one of the things I stress is when you have those emotions, sometimes you have to, good or bad, you have to make sure you take some time before you relay messages to the other side of the negotiation, because sometimes it's just something that they have to vent and you have to talk out. Like, example, someone is all of a sudden 10,000 over asking price one day. Before they even get accepted, the next day morning, they're like, I want 10,000 under asking. Okay. And then you just automatically send that message to the other agent. My buyer's withdrawing, kind of changing their offer, countering their offer, changing their offer, or withdrawing their offer of what we sent before you countered it. And they want 10,000 under. Wow. I've seen that several times over many, many years. But because they think about it overnight, they think about it, the things they have to fix, the things they have to do. Maybe we offered too much. So give it some time, because you might have to have a conversation with them. Say, hey, let's have a conversation about this. Let's figure this out. And then I'm going to jump ahead a little bit of what I wanted to talk about. But that's when you have to have them keep their eye on the prize, keep their eye on the prize of what they want to accomplish. The prize is their motivation. So example, I'm just giving examples of that. If this is something, a house that they really want to buy, they have their house sold, they have to get in. You could really go through the conversation with them. If you go 10,000 under, you're dropping at $20,000 in less than a day before they even get a chance to respond. How would you respond to a buyer doing that to you? Do you think that they'd be kind of wishy-washy? Think that they'd be worried that they'll do that throughout the process? I'll buy the house, I'll not buy the house. After the inspections, are they going to be picky about every little thing? Are the $20,000 difference? If you get, how much is that per month, depending upon their mortgage? Do you want to risk not getting this house for, we'll say, $50 a month because it's a different in payment? I'm just throwing out a number. I didn't run the numbers there on the 20,000. But is that something you want to risk before you relay the message. Sometimes some agents, boom, 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 everything they say, they're relaying messages exactly instantly as fast as possible without having that counsel, if that's the best word for that. The next type is the expediter. The expediter. I feel like I'm an expediter sometimes. I want it fast. Like, let's get this done. The expediter, fast, 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 like really fast. Like, here's my offer. Get back to me. I think there's more expediters today than ever before. So because just our attention spans. And years ago, offers would come in, we'd be off we don't have emails, or everything was done through fax machines, and you had to be at the office. So I'm out showing houses all day and writing offers all night. Sometimes faxes are coming in the early afternoon or morning, and the other agent knows that I'm not going to see that fax maybe till tomorrow morning, because I'm not going to be back at the office to see the fax and get the fax and send it to you the next day. And then I got to wait till my people got off work. So negotiations used to take a little bit longer. So today the negotiations could take a little bit longer responses, but people just want, hey, can't you get this to the seller now? In today's day and age, today's technology, it's in dot loop, send it, give it to them. Where are they? What kind of job do they have? They don't have a job that they can watch, look at their offer, make a decision now. So expeditors want it fast. And the best way to handle an expediter, they have no patience. They just want what they want when they want it. And where you have no patience, again, similar to a logical linear person, almost similar, but better with this is that if I was on the seller side and I had someone fast, 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 and an agent fast, 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 take your time, because they just want to get it done fast. They want it signed fast. So if you take a little bit of time on your negotiations, that expediter might go, fine, I just want to get it done. Give them what they're asking. I've had expeditors type personalities raise their offer before they even get a counter offer from the seller. Again, pretend that we're not even in a seller's market, tell we're in a normal market. They're just so impatient. They want to get it done and move on to the next step, that they'll go, okay, we offered them this. Why aren't they getting back to us? Why aren't they getting back? Mr. and Mrs. Expediter buyer, the other agent's not getting back to me either. I don't know yet. I haven't heard from them. I'm trying to get a hold of them, find out what the sellers, in their heads, when their timeline is. Do they work, where they are they going to respond tonight, tomorrow? Where's the communication? And then it's silent for just a short period of time. Somebody goes, okay, maybe we're going to miss out on the house. Maybe, oh my gosh, they're not responding to us. Oh, I don't want to miss out. I just want to get this done today. I want to get it done today. Okay, fine. Just raise my offer by 10,000 to say, I want this offer today. Oh, you know what do those expediters do a lot? Which I love to see this in this market. Oh, it still happens. Who does this? And you might see this offer on a house. We're the first offer. We're the first one in the gate. Oh, by the way, my buyer, this offer is only good till 6 p.m. tonight, or it's off the table. Thank you. Why don't you just put it in a neon sign that says my buyer, or me as an agent, buyer's agent, is an expediter? Well, great. We're not going to get back to you by 6, maybe sometime tomorrow. My seller that wants to sit on it's the first offer. We'll let you know soon, but I'll let you know when we know. Those people, they want an answer now. Those people will come up. They don't go away. They don't go away. What buyer says, I love your house so much. I need your house. I need to know by 6 p.m. But at 6:01 p.m., I'm going to not need your house anymore. Please, in 30 years of experience, don't do that. Don't do that. In the markets, you do that. Let me just explain that. Do that is when it's a buyer's market and you don't want to miss out on another house. So if you're going to use that tactic as a buyer's agent, explain why. Explain why. Don't just say it's no good at 6:01 p.m. You tell them, hey, little conversation. Say, hey, Jane, I'm saying to your seller, say, I just want to let you know the offer's coming. It's coming in. My buyers are offering their highest and best right now. The offer's only good till 6 o'clock. The reason being is we have another house that they like. They have another house. They don't want to miss out on that one, because if your sellers are not good with it, this is the highest and best. So all they have to do, your sellers say, no, good, done, because we're at our highest and best. So no need. I just need a no. A yes or a no. I need it by 6 because they don't want to miss out on this other option if that falls through. What does that do to me? What does that explain to them? Again, my opinion, it explains fear of loss to the seller. That you need, so that agent goes back and say, hey, here's the offer. She explained to me, or he explained to me, they need it because they really love your house. They want your house first. It's their highest and best. But if you don't say no, they have another option and they don't want to miss out on that one. So I suggest, because they might take that other option if they don't get back to them, because they don't want to miss out on have no house. So that's an idea. That's an idea. The no explanation to me usually just says kind of like they're playing a game. And then the last, it was the exact opposite of the expediter, is the rocking chair type person, that they just sit and take their time, and they're on a totally different timeline of how they make decisions, sleep on it, talk it to other people, their family, their friends, kind of do some more research, So those people sometimes are, again, exact opposite of expediters, are frustrating to certain other personalities, because, and honestly, to me, sometimes it is frustrating for a personality like myself, the rocking chairs, because I am the type of personality, a lot of people are, is that, say I'm selling my house, I've already planned out everything after that. Like, as soon as I sell my house, I need to buy a new house. I need to move by this date. I need, more scheduled like that. Some people don't do that. And it's hard for people to see that even though they've been thinking about selling their house for a while, then they finally make the decision to hire an agent to put their house on the market. And then, even though that listing agent is doing a great job of telling them how the things that they need to do and the steps and the processes, but their brain doesn't really process it. They hear it, they don't process. So when they get that offer, now they're really thinking about, okay, if I take this offer, then how much money, proceeds will I get? What am I going to do next? So they need time to think about, like, it just started, like it didn't, all that thought process, that those planning and ideas didn't even happen. It's just like starting from square one. Okay, offers here. Okay, now what am I going to do? Again, it took me years and years and years and years to understand. What do you mean you don't know? You got to have a plan, don't you? You can't make a decision sooner. You got to sit on it for a couple days or whatever. But the best part of negotiations and communication, we'll say communication today between agents, is explaining to each other verbally as much as you can, and people actually speaking on the phone. So, and saying, listen, just want to let my seller just needs a little bit of time. They want to think about it, go over it. We appreciate your offer. I will keep you updated, because it's not, in my opinion, not fair to the other side to not communicate what timeline or process it is. I mean, you don't have to give away show your cards like, hey, my seller wants to think about it because he knows your people are an expediter, and he knows that if we wait a little time, your buyers might come up because they're just so impatient. No, you don't have to do that. So, but a little communication, not fall off the planet. So there's a fine line between that. So those are the people pleaser, the king of the hill, the earnest and honest, the linear, the ping pong, the expediter, the rocking chair type people. Now, attributes of a professional communicator, excuse me, I get it right, is you've got to remain the rock solid, eye of the storm type person. You got to be that they could depend on you. I know it's so hard, and I see this a lot. So hard to take on. You want to, let me reverse it. I like this hurricane analogy. I'm going to run with this. Is that you're the eye of the hurricane. So many times buyers and sellers are in the hurricane because there's lots of moving parts: buying, selling, emotions, money, moving, kids, family, where they're going, nerves, anxiety, fear, excitement, all that. Imagine all that. And sometimes the gosh, I'm running with this, and it's just right off the top of my head. Sometimes the buyers and sellers are reaching out to you as their agent. Like imagine they're swirling around that hurricane and they're reaching out, help me, grab their hand, like, help me with this whole hurricane process. And you, as an agent, a lot of agents just get pulled right into it. You get pulled into the hurricane, and now your emotions, your anxiety, I see that a lot because when agents get upset. I don't understand why so many agents get so upset and mad. They take on the emotion. It's kind of like if you're going into surgery and you're going into your doctor, you don't want your doctor to be as nervous and as worried as you are. Like, oh my God, I don't know either. No, you want them calm. You want that they rock solid. And I'm sticking with the hurricane analogy. You don't have to grab their hand to be with them. They're circling around you. Does that make sense? They're circling around. Don't worry, they're going to come back. That they always see you. They see you in the middle. They see you as the rock. They see you waiting for them and trying to pull them out of that. Don't get pulled in. Pull them into that eye where it's calm and the birds are chirping and all of that. But they're going to fall. They're going to get sucked back into it. The more you the lack of communication, the lack of guidance as an agent will get them sucked into the hurricane. Does that make sense? So if you're not constantly communicating, reaffirming, showing your expertise, showing them that you are the rock solid person in the middle of that hurricane, they're going to fall into that. They're going to keep on going into that. And then they're going to get stuck in it if you don't continue to. And the less you communicate, the less you advise, the less you counsel, the further they get into it. That was right off the top of my head. That's not something in my notes, but I just wanted to run with it there but I think it's a very good analogy of what I see happen in during the negotiations and during the buying process. So you got to be that rock solid. Next, you have to provide a 360-degree bird's eye perspective of what's going on. Not view. Not view to me is like, there it is. Just here's a piece of paper. This is what's happening. No, a perspective of what's happening. And that's trying to understand where everybody's coming from in the negotiation, where everybody's needs and wants and what their goals are and motivations are. We have a buyer that needs to buy, a seller needs to sell. Like example, you have a seller. Let me paint a picture. If you have a seller that it's a retiree that's lived in their house for 30 plus years, that their whole family lives there, they're going to be emotionally connected to that house more. And you can't make it usually as linear logical with them or with just numbers, explaining it's a house, a home. Those are the types of people I tell our buyers, agents, to really show them that you're like them. You want to live there and raise a family there, do whatever you need to do. Now, a lot of agents, especially today, there's controversy or discussions about buyers and sellers knowing so much about each other, if that affects the property, or even some, I remember one state, I think it was Oregon, that was trying to make it illegal for buyers to write AKA love letters to tell the sellers about themselves, because they thought it might be discriminatory about that. But without going into my personal opinion, well, I will go in my personal opinion, go that down that road, is that when you're a seller, when you're selling a house, yes, and an agent, the discrimination is wrong in all levels whatsoever. But I don't think it's ever going to be a possibility to tell a seller, you can't ever be at home when a buyer comes in. You can't ever talk to them. You can't even know who they are or what they do, but it's going to happen. I don't know how you keep a buyer and sellers without somehow communicating with each other, or knowing each other, or seeing each other, or telling each other about each other. Obviously, buyers walk in a house, they have personal pictures all over. They got awards on the wall. They got they can look them up online and see who lives there, and Google them and see who they are. Like, oh, this is a doctor, a lawyer. This is someone, how long they live. They could paint a picture about a seller more than a buyer sometimes. But the point I'm getting at there is, you have to help them with the perspective of where everybody's angles are. So where that helps in negotiations is, and I've seen this happen. Example, was sitting there, had a buyer and seller together, agents together. We were all there in negotiation. We were just finalizing the deal, finalizing it. We thought we verbally agreed to everything. Seller cut it short, said, no, we need to think about this. They were being nice. Well, they weren't being nice, but they were being nice that night to say they didn't want to say anything. The next day, deal's done, killed. And I said, and I asked the other agent, what? I said, well, they felt the buyers got so comfortable when they were walking around their house with the sellers. They were saying things about their house, and they said things that offended them about their house, and they don't like the buyers anymore. And the buyers lost the house because of whatever. I don't know what was said. They didn't say what was said, but something that they said, they just said something maybe about their decor, how they live, who knows. So the point I'm getting at is the perspective, like what I would have said to those sellers if I could have kept it together, like, listen, don't take it personal, especially if they needed to sell. Everybody has their own views. Very sorry that someone would offend you with their comments, depending upon, make sure it wasn't so offensive. I'm just saying, I'm assuming it was. I remember my clients, they weren't bad people. I don't think they would have said anything totally offensive, maybe just something little. But those are the things that we have to keep, that 360-degree perspective in the negotiation process to make sure buyers and sellers know what to say, don't say, how should we say things, how we should act to better their negotiations. You know what I mean? So we know, and I'll even go to the extent with the agents. There's agents right now, I know that, and just being in this business for so long, when, like I just said a little bit earlier, when an agent asks me what for my help, and first thing I say, that agent, sometimes I go, oh, good, that's good. I know that agent. They're great people. I could even call them for you. And then sometimes my eyes are like, oh boy, okay, here we go. And sometimes, and a lot of agents, maybe my agents watching this, have heard me say, listen, let me explain to you my experience with this agent and how they negotiate, how they handle things, and how it might not be this way here, but I need to tell you my experience. So, when you're talking with them or emailing or texting them, how to handle them. So again, that's the perspective. That's the 360-degree perspective on what they're doing. Next is keep their eyes on the prize. What's the prize? I kind of said it earlier, but the prize is not the house. It's not. That's probably your first thing. The prize is the house. No, the prize is their motivation for buying the house. Why are they buying? Why are they selling? These are the type of things is that when they get off track and they go, I want to, take $5,000 off, or I want them to pay closing costs, or I want to forget it. They want $2,000 in closing costs. Forget it. I'm not paying that. Say you're a seller, and then keep them the eyes on the prize. What is their goal? That Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this you already have a contract on another home. You really wanted to be out of this home by this time. You really wanted somewhere where you didn't have to fix anything. You didn't have to do anything. They're meeting all of your terms, except they want that $2,000 for closing costs. Is that something that you would want to lose this whole chain of events? This is going to close on time. All the terms other than that is perfect. Then you're going to be able to have your house closed. They're giving you time to move out, to get into your new house. You'll have the proceeds, so you could easily buy your next house and get into that. Everything else is good. So again, keep them eyes on the prize. If you feel in your expertise and that it's a fair deal, it's still a good deal for all parties, or at least for your sellers. They're not getting taken advantage of, but you still think it's good. These are times you got to keep their eyes on the prize. Allow the process to unfold. Sometimes we just jump right into it. So it takes time. So, we, again, kind of like the expediter type people, they want things done now. And sometimes we need time for the other agent to get through their day. I'm just saying timeline. Other agent they have their things to do that day, then talk to the seller, get back to you. Then the buyer has talked to their people, get back to you. It might be another day. I know this is blowing around your mind sometimes, like, oh, it might take 2-3 days to get a negotiation. Like, no, why not the same day? Why not in the same afternoon? Sometimes you got to let it unfold to everybody's. Just, again, keep communication going, but let it unfold. Stay relationship connected. Always stay connected and keep your relationship in mind with people and how you are counseling and how you're your advisor. So always remind yourself of your relationship with them. So sometimes they need a reminder. I'm here to advise you. I'm here for you, to give you my best advice. Because sometimes it's not the best, the things that they want to hear. So always remind yourself that you are the expert. You are the person helping them. You are because sometimes agents, I feel, second guess themselves when someone says, no, you're wrong. This is what the buyer wants. This is what the seller wants. This is what I should get for my house. This is not what my Uncle Joe told me when he sold his house. You say your relationship with them is to be the expert, be the advisor. So even though you're giving them advice that they don't like, constantly seek common ground. Now, I'm a win-win type personality, a fair deal personality. I like to be within the fair range. I usually say that to agents when a buyer buys a house and they go, "Am I overpaying?" I'm like, "No, it's on the high. It's a fair price, but it's on a higher but fair price." And if a seller says, "Am I giving the house away?" No, you're giving this is a fair price from the comps that sold and the other ones that are on the market that have been sitting on the market. This is a fair price. It's not an exact science of exact dollar amount of what something sells for. And the house sells for because there's not your exact house next door that just sold. So it's a negotiation. You're in the fair zone. You're in the high or low. You're in the fair zone. Common ground under that. And as a buyer's agent, have always be willing to walk away. Having that, so kind of having that personality. If you have a buyer that just needs a house and they're expressing that to as much as they possibly can to the seller, just because they think that they're people pleaser, they want to know how much they love the house, they need the house. That's hurts in your negotiations unless your buyer doesn't care too much. Like, I just want the house. That's what we're seeing now. Isn't it? That's what we're seeing now. One, we have listing agents listing houses for a certain price, thinking that it's worth this. Any house that going over asking price is one, an agent, listing agent that didn't think the house was worth that much, because that's why it was at a lower listing price. And two, a buyer's agent having a buyer that says, I am willing, I want the house that much. I don't care about the negotiation, just find the price to get this house. So if that makes sense, is that sometimes that's what happens when you at the end of a transaction, or end of the negotiation, not the end of the negotiations, but when you're trying to finalize the negotiations, of not being able to walk away. When you can't walk away, that's when it turns into a seller's market. Those sellers know that the buyers don't walk away. So that's why a little bit of this is stuff that you're not going to encounter as much, because we're in this extreme of a market right now, but you will. So some things to think about as the markets change. I'm going to give you a couple tips and a couple things to think and things to say to talking points. So number one important thing as agents is sometimes in negotiations, buyers and sellers, the seller or buyer may come to you to renegotiate your commission. It happens every month. They have a couple agents every month calling me saying, hey, to make this deal happen, my buyer won't go up 1,000. The sellers won't come down 1,000. Can I give up 1,000 of my commission? Now, of course, in our Century One Homestar, tell our agents that's up to you. But if it's something that needs to happen 100% because financially the seller can't afford it, buyer can't afford it anymore, maybe. But if it's just people that are being cheap, we'll just throw that out. I've seen this happen. Sellers own their house outright, getting over asking price. They're being hard-nosed about a dollar amount. And then a buyer that could afford more, they're putting 40% down. They want to win, and our agents giving away their commission. But I tell them with that, as soon as you do that, then you're devaluing yourself, showing you're devaluing yourself. And sometimes, example, I've seen this happen several times, is say it's a buyer's side, and then all of a sudden they have an inspection and you open the door for negotiation about your commission. And then the inspection comes, they want money. The buyer and seller already know that that we have people that are going to negotiate their fees. And then they come back to you again. Well, it's going to cost me another $1,000 to fix that. And they're going to look at you and point to you. But on the seller side, I'll just go back to the listing, is when you start negotiating your commission, it really shows your seller how you are gonna, it's like they want to see how you're going to be as a negotiator. You're like on stage, you're trying out, saying, hey, what do you think about your commission? And as a listing agent, when you go into a listing, there's so many things, and that's a whole nother video, and I could go on for a half hour, things to say, but I just want to, the main point is that in negotiations, is that if you can't negotiate your commission on why you're worth that, how good are you going to be to negotiate the price, the offer of any buyers or any buyers agents that bring to you about, and bringing the best and highest and best price and circumstances for your seller. So explain that to the seller. So without going into too much detail about list presentations, when people ask to cut your commission, it's like, how good am I if I cut my commission and don't show you how valuable I am? How am I going to express to a buyer how valuable and what the price of your house should be, when they're going to be telling me, well, the house down the street is 10,000 less, and the house down the street, because you're probably going to tell me the reason why I'm asking you to cut my commission is because there's another agent that or another company that does it for less. Well, I would like to explain why my value is where it is. That's how I negotiate. Again, I'm just throwing this off the top of my head, but the point of the matter is, you got to be stern with precise, and know exactly what you're going to say and be ready for it. because it comes up. Don't like it's not a surprise, that type of thing. Kind of like as a seller's, when you say you put your house on the market, normally the buyers are going to come in lower. They're not going to come in and asking price, and you don't get offended. You just know it's going to happen, and then you react to it. So hopefully that makes sense. Here's some magical phrases that you could use during the negotiations. And I'm just going to rattle off a few of these because we're getting close to the end here. It's a fair offer. Just like I said, it's a fair offer when buyers are selling. Is this a good offer? It's a fair offer. It's in the fair range. It's not bad. It's within the range. That sounds reasonable. When someone asks the seller, it's you're representing the seller, they go, the $2,000 in closing costs. Yeah, that's reasonable. I mean, we see that. And that's where the next comment comes in. That's not unusual. So again, some seller that's never been through it, I was like, oh my God, they're asking us to pay things. Not happening as much now, but they're asking us to pay closing costs. Who does that? No, that's reasonable, and it's not unusual. Buyers ask for closing costs. They're basically financing their closing costs. Less money they have to come to closing. It's not that they're asking you to pay more to them. They're just trying to roll in their closing costs and finance them there. Other things get closer. I want to make sure you're comfortable before they sign the documents. You don't ever want to make people feel like they're uncomfortable and they're making a wrong decision. I said, I just want you to be comfortable with your decision, but here are the facts. Here's the studies. Here's the all aspects of the transaction from start to finish. Are you comfortable with this? I understand. That's I understand. I understand, and sorry for the confusion. Those two kind of terms a lot, because sometimes when you're in negotiations, that your party might feel like you're not hearing them, or you're not responding fast enough, or not understanding their angle of why their views are their views. That's what you say. I understand. Yes, I understand. I just need to help you. So thank you for helping me understand. So that's a good one. I use a lot. Thank you for helping me understand. Because example, a lot of people don't tell you everything that's in their motivation. And sometimes you think everything on paper looks great. And they go, why aren't they signing? This is exactly what they want. There must be more to it. So that's kind of when you ask some more questions and you go, thank you. Now I understand. Thank you for helping me understand. And that's where I said, sorry for the confusion. So sometimes it's not that you were right or wrong, or they were right or wrong. Sometimes in that asking questions, you think you got them the best deal possible. It's ready to go, but something's holding them up, and you got to find out what it is. Another one is, so I'm hearing you say, that's another good one so I'm hearing you say that you really want to this. I'm hearing you say that you rather have this or that. I'm hearing you say that it's more important that this happens or that happens. So what I'm hearing you say is just kind of reiterating what they said, explain that, because in the negotiations, things are moving, people change their minds, people more, like I just said, more motivations come out that you thought weren't as kind of like multiple personalities. You're like, I thought this was the dominant motivation, and all of a sudden, no, there's another dominant motivation. There's another dominant personality coming up. And that's where you say, oh, so I'm here, you're saying, so, okay, thank you for helping me understand. I thought the most important thing to you, as you mentioned when we had this, and again, in one of my other videos, we said, write down a list with them, and so they could see what their motivation is, why they're moving. They see it on paper, give them a copy of it, and then something to reference, so you don't have to say, I didn't hear you, or you were wrong. Like, oh, here, right here, in my notes, or in our buyer questionnaire, you said the motivation was to get out by this specific date because you wanted to get into your new house by this date, to be in school by that date. So that was number one. So, okay, so what I'm hearing and understanding now, it's really, you need not just a fair deal, you need this dollar amount most important, because you need that for the down payment. You need extra money for this stuff. So the dollar amount, not within range, like to a penny. Because for some people with a penny, I need this dollar amount because they have it all, the money already spent. That happens a lot too when you don't go a seller's net sheet or have a title company. So if ever, kind of switching a little bit of gears, if you ever have a buyer or seller, especially a seller that needs exact dollar amount out, please have them talk to a title company first, or have a title company drop an estimated settlement statement, because sometimes we list properties and we get to closing and the seller's upset because we as agents didn't explain all the closing costs, the transfer tax, because it's just something that's always happens, and they needed a specific dollar amount. Even though they got a good price for the house, everything's fine. They just thought that there was going to get a little bit more. So I kind of went off track there a little bit. And the last I would say is that just make sure, the whole point of this video today is about the art of negotiations, that you are showing that your side, your buyer, your seller, that you are needed, that you are it. You're not just a parrot, like you're just relaying messages. I see it happen a lot too. It's just, how does that make you look to your buyer, your seller? Okay, what do you want me to say next? What you like to me, like you're just recording it. Now, why don't you just cut and paste? Okay, what do you want me to say? You're basically just a middleman of relaying messages, and you're not advising, you're not a counsel, you're not showing them, giving them these kind of things of different personalities and trying to get deep involved the other side of what their motivation is in the negotiation. You're just relaying messages back and forth. And you might have some personalities like that. You have those king of the hill type personalities. They just want you to be, and I always use this as an example as like an attorney. An attorney is a contact. They just want you to be sometimes just a parrot. Just, this is what I want you to tell them, go tell them. This is what I want you to send them, and that's it. But some people might sound like that, but they want more. You got to show them more. It's kind of like telling your doctor what to do. I'm sure doctors, that's the first thing that they hate. They go, hey, you walk in because they probably hate the internet. They're like, hey, can you prescribe this to me, that to me, before they even examine you, because you've did your research and you think it's better. And they're like, I didn't even tell it. Let me be the expert. Let me examine you. Let me see what I come up with first before you tell me what medicine to prescribe me. I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there, like, you just want to find a doctor that just prescribes me the medicine I want. So I know there's personalities out there like that, just trying to find someone, just do what I tell you to do. But not all people are like that. And then that diminishes your value when you don't show them your skills, and that will diminish your amount of referrals you get and people that they refer you to. Or guess what? They're going to refer you to, bad example, like doctors, they refer you to people. Hey, use Tony. He just does whatever you tell him to do. He's just a yes man. They'll just use him to be the voice. There's people that'll do that. That definitely will. So that's all I wanted to go over today. I know I'm hitting that hour mark. Thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate you spending your time with me, and anybody watching on Facebook. Thanks for the text messages and the emails and things I get from our agents and other agents out there that enjoy these videos. I love doing them. I've got only 2 more for our 15 day, 3-week session, but I will do them again. And little teaser, I'm trying, it might take me a few months, trying to get these hour-long classes approved for CE purposes. So these will be CE. So I can't guarantee that. That's up to the Division of Real Estate, but I am going to be trying that and hopefully get that within the next few months. I don't know how long they take to, and now since post-COVID or pre-COVID, they were quicker, but I'm going to be working on that too. So look for that. So that's it for today. Let me go in here and share this. Let's see here. Let me get out of here. And let's see, stop live stream. There we go. And end recording.